Hey there, Alex here at mixinglessons.com. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between mixing and mastering. But before we dive in, if you want to get a head start with recording and mixing music in your home studio, then head on over to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads and download a copy of my free EQ cheat sheet, my free compression cheat sheet, and my free vocal recording guide. They're really useful guides to have access to in your home studio. So let's talk about the difference between mixing and mastering. So at the mixing stage, you've got all of the tracks that you've recorded, and you're going to work with each of those tracks to create a mix that you're happy with. So that's likely going to involve setting what level different instruments are going to be at in comparison to one another, setting what pan position different instruments are going to be at in the stereo field. You'll probably apply EQ to different instruments. You're likely going to be applying compression to different tracks. You might add reverb to different tracks. You might apply automation, so the levels of things can change over the course of the song, or the pan position, or any of the things we've mentioned, the EQ or the compression, for example. And what you're doing at this stage is you're trying to take each of these individual elements and create a mix which you think sounds really good. And once you've got to that point, once you've got to the point where you think that all of these individual elements are working together to create a really good mix, then you're going to move on to the mastering stage. So at the mastering stage, we're approaching things a little bit differently. We have a different set of goals in mind. So what we do at the mastering stage is we take each completed mix that's going to appear on an album or an EP or whatever it is that you're working on. Could just be a single track, but even if it is, there are still reasons to master it. So we're no longer working with the individual tracks in a mix. We're not turning the vocal up or down or applying EQ to the snare drum. We're taking these completed, finished mixes and we're adding the final processing to those mixes. And so that could involve applying EQ to each mix, compression to each mix. You would generally apply limiting. And we're doing this for a number of reasons. For me, the first goal of mastering is that we want each of these tracks to sound as though they belong together. So even if each mix sounds really good on its own, we need to make sure that they all sound cohesive and as if they're part of the same release. So even if you've recorded all of these songs yourself in your home studio, you've used the same mics, the same musicians, you've mixed every track yourself, there could still be some variation. Perhaps different tracks have different instrumentation, for example. And so when somebody listens to this album, we want them to be able to listen song by song and for nothing to stand out or feel as if it doesn't belong there. So you want there to be that consistency there. Now, that's not to say that you're not allowed to have any variation between your songs. You might want there to be variation, but it's more a case of making sure that if there is variation there, that variation is intentional. Another goal of mastering for some mastering engineers can be to make sure that the music sounds as though it fits in with other music that's released in that genre. So it might be a case of listening against some reference tracks and making sure that the way these songs are presented are consistent with other music in the genre that you're releasing in. Mastering can also be a really good opportunity to audition your music on different systems and make sure that this music sounds great on all of the systems or the devices that you think people are going to be listening to these songs on. So it's a good opportunity to listen to the music on headphones, on a Bluetooth speaker, in the car, to make sure that that music translates well across all of those different systems. Mastering is also an opportunity to make sure that the music is presented in a way which is appropriate for whatever format the music's going to be released on. So if the music's going to be released on vinyl or CD or released for streaming and digital download, each of these formats have slightly different requirements. And so the mastering stage is again an opportunity to make sure that the music is appropriate for that format. And finally, because mastering is the last stage that this music goes through before it's released, it's the last opportunity to catch any errors or catch anything that needs to be rectified. And so these are some of the things that we're looking to achieve at the mastering stage. And as you can see, they're very different to what we're trying to achieve at the mixing stage. Mixing is about taking each of these individual elements, each of these different instruments, and processing each of these instruments in a way which complement the rest of the instruments in a mix and creating a really nice mix overall. Whereas at the mastering stage, we're taking these songs and we're thinking about how they compare to the other songs on the release. We want there to be that consistency between different songs so that somebody can listen to the album from beginning to end and nothing's going to sound out of place. There's not going to be one song that is unintentionally a little bit louder than the others. There's not going to be one song that sounds brighter than all of the rest. You're going to have this consistency between the songs. You're also going to want to make sure that the music sounds as if it belongs in the genre that you're releasing in. And then, because this is the final stage before your music's going to be released, you're also going to want to make sure that the music translates well across different devices and playback systems. You're going to want to make sure that the music is appropriate for the format that it's going to be released on. And finally, it's that last opportunity to catch any errors and correct them before your tracks go out into the world. And so those are the differences between the mixing stage of producing a record and the mastering stage. I really hope that you found this useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel for future videos. And don't forget to head over to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads to download your free EQ cheat sheet, your free compression cheat sheet, and your free vocal recording guide. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.